how did we get to the point where it was a totally normal thing to go on a temple trip to get baptized for dead people that we didn't even know?
Yeah.
Like how do you get to that point? It's like the brainwashing has to be so real.
I mean, when I told the story of, the girl being baptized and her mom freaking out, thinking that we were literally digging up bodies and baptizing them, I think that is probably a more common thought than most LDS people realize.
And it just goes again to the idea that the LDS people have no idea how the rest of the world perceives them.
Not at all.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan.
And I'm Kirsten.
And together we are Ex Mormon Snark.
We're trading our testimonies for truth bombs.
And we are spilling all of the Mormon tea and coffee and tobacco and alcohol and anything else we can get our hands on.
Hi, Megan. How are you today?
I'm good, Kirsten. How are you?
I'm good. And I'm ready to talk about something that is both traumatizing and very humorous at the same time.
Just like
every time we talk.
I was going to say, just like everything in Mormonism. Traumatizing, and now that we're out, it's hilariously funny. So we are going along the covenant path. We talked about this in our baptism video. Entrance into the Mormon church happens by baptism, the gift of the Holy Ghost. We did 3 episodes on that. And now we are continuing on the covenant path. And we're going to talk about how, as 12-year-old children, we went to the temple for the first time, not together, separately, because I'm way older than Kirsten.
Not way, just I was not yet temple age when Megan was. So,
right. Anyways, so Kirsten and I were talking in preparation for this episode how wild it is that at the age of 3, that's when children in the Mormon church start going to Sunday school classes. Yep. And that is the time that we would have started to be introduced to the concept of the temple. We learned a song called I Love to See the Temple. I'm going there someday. To feel the Holy Spirit.
To listen
and to pray.
Obey. Was it pray?
Yeah. To listen and to pray is the first verse.
You're right.
And then for the temple is a house of God.
Yeah. A place of love and beauty.
I'll prepare myself while I am young. This is my sacred duty. Those are the words of the song. And then the second verse is, I love to see the temple. I'll go inside someday. I'll covenant with the Father. I'll promise to obey.
Promise to obey. That's where it was. I was like, yep. I know obey is in there. Yeah.
For the temple is a holy place where we are sealed together.
As a child
of God,
I've learned this truth. A family is forever. Which really stinks if you don't love your family, though.
Yeah, it also stinks if you have abusers in your family. It also stinks it stinks for a lot of reasons. But mainly if you don't fit the Mormon definition of the ideal family, and just recently, the new president of the corporation of the church was talking about ideal families. And they were saying, we want to include more types of families. I'm paraphrasing here. Right. But it was still a very limited, small thing. What about single people who never get married? Where's their family? Do they have a ward family, sort of? And then also, what about people whose parents get divorced and then never get remarried? And the sealing thing has become so complicated, because it used to just be that when you got married, you were sealed. And then if you got divorced or somebody died or whatever, the sealing was still in effect. Like you were still sealed. And the reason I keep doing this is because that's what sealing is for like Mormon people. It means that your marriage is like forever.
Intertwined
You're
forever.
Stuck.
Yeah.
And then when 2 people get married and they have kids, their kids are automatically born under the covenant. So that means that they're automatically sealed together. But if you adopt a kid, you have to take your whole family to the temple and go through the sealing ceremony for that kid.
Yep.
So this can get down a rabbit hole. So all I want to say is that as children, we were indoctrinated to have the temple as our highest, holiest goal. And I'm going to show you a picture right now that's going to make you sick.
Every single child that I know, and I know it was encouraged, has a picture of the temple in their bedroom.
Yeah, I guess I was a heathen, because I remember we had a very creepy picture of Jesus in our house. It was in the hallway when I was little, and then when we moved, it was in the main family room. So I always felt like Jesus is watching me when I was in that room, arguing with my brothers and watching Top Gun that had swear words and a lengthy sex scene.
Oh. Well, I remember a lesson where one of my leaders, she brought a pack of like every temple in the world. I believe it might have not been that much. It was huge, but it was postcards or postcard size, so like 5x7. And we all passed them around, and we got to choose whatever our favorite temple was out of those pictures. And then she even gave us a frame. But I already had one in my room forever. But like right there, that was probably Beehive, maybe My Maid. So 12 to 13-year-old, excuse me, in that age range. So 6th or 7th grade. And we were supposed to pick out our favorite temple to have it in our room. I think we even wrote our testimony on the back of it or something, you know.
Yep. That sounds very, very Mormon. You know, I'm just thinking it's weird because that is a thing in most Mormon homes. There is at least one picture of one temple, you know, usually the ones that your parents were married in or whatever. But it's very, very weird. I don't remember ever having a picture of a temple in my house. And I guess that's where my parents went wrong, because I ended up not getting married in the temple. That's probably why, because I never had a picture of a temple in my bedroom.
Most likely.
My parents did have a little stone replica of the Salt Lake Temple that was on a shelf.
Right. Yeah.
But my parents were married in the Logan Temple. And I remember my grandmother had a painting of the Logan Temple in her house. But we never did have pictures of temples. And even now, my parents don't have pictures of temples. But it is a big deal in the Mormon world, like the Mormon art, you know, like people who are very faithful and can afford it have lots and lots of Mormon art in their house. And temples are a big part of that.
They're a huge part, to the point that that is what is on my mom's gravestone that she picked out.
Yeah.
So
my grandma's too
has the St. George Temple on it, where her and my father got married. It was always her favorite temple, and it has her favorite flowers on it. But yeah, so temples are a really big deal, because in the church theology, it's like Megan was saying, it connects everything. That's where the highest ordinances that are going to get you to the celestial kingdom, which is the highest tier of heaven, because heaven is tiered if you're LDS.
It is. We're going to have to do a plan of salvation episode where we explain the different tiers of heaven, because that is a whole rabbit hole for another time. My favorite temple when I was a youth was the San Diego Temple, because it was the most, to me, architecturally interesting. Should we show a picture?
Absolutely.
Okay. So when you go to churchofjesuschrist.org, it's not LDS.org or Mormon.org anymore, because they're trying to be more mainstream. You can look at each individual temple has its own website. The San Diego Temple is being renovated. I want to look at the media gallery because I want people to see this picture bigger.
Yeah.
Ooh, look at all those pretty pictures. As you know, the temple steeple spire thing is Very, very important in Mormonism, apparently.
Yes.
Even though there are plenty of temples without steeples or spires on them, but this one had the most.
Correct. To
So
me, that was like Disneyland inspired. They're like, we need to compete with the mouse.
I think so. Like, it's just down the road from Disneyland, guys. Just kidding. But yeah, I don't know why this one was so attractive to me. It's like the most ornate, gaudiest one. People say it looks like a spaceship. Yeah, or a castle. Oh my gosh, that was the other one. The whole if this is not your castle, then you're not my prince. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
Okay, how about this?
Oh my gosh.
So there were all kinds of pictures and crafty things and art promoting this idea. If this isn't your castle, then you aren't my prince.
Yeah.
And here's the one that I hate more than anything else in the whole wide world. When we were teenagers, there was a magazine called The New Era that was just for youth. It had, all kinds of propaganda in it about how you're supposed to live your life. And in the middle of the magazine, they would have these little advertisements, is all I can say. It's propaganda.
That's what they're called. They still call them Mormon ads.
Yes, they are called Mormon ads. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Find them on their website. So this is not like us going down and finding. They're still there on the website. You can type in Mormon ads, and they are there.
Yes,
you can
but
even
they
order
have
them to print or something. Yeah.
Yes, but the LDS Church has scrubbed some of the more cringeworthy ones that were out when we were kids. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Didn't they every once in a while have one that you could literally like tear out of the magazine that was on like cardstock?
Yeah. It was like quarterly, I believe, and it would like unfold and be a bigger one. Guys, this magazine, they made it very much like trying to be cool. I remember there was like the question and answer section that was like,
oh yeah,
do you remember?
Yes,
and had like not coloring pages, but it was like the match and find. They had word scrambles.
Yep.
I mean, they had all sorts of stuff. They had interviews of like youth doing service projects and
yeah. So there were 3 magazines put out by the church. And the first one is The Friend, which is for children under 12. And they always had like little
highlights.
It was like highlights.
Yeah.
Right. Like highlights for Mormon kids. And then the New Era was for teenagers. And then the Ensign was the adult magazine. And that's where they printed all the conference talks. And, it basically was propaganda. And also, don't get me started on this. They made us freaking pay for those subscriptions. It was $8 a year for each magazine. It still makes me angry. Like
Can I tell you a funny story about the Friend magazine really quick?
Of course. I always want to hear a funny story.
My mom submitted a poem I wrote without my knowledge to the Friend.
No way.
It was titled The Black Fox. And it was, I don't remember the poem. There might be a copy somewhere. But it was like a black fox at night, and she's protecting her baby in the moonlight on her fur and all these things. I remember writing it just because I was a weird kid. And I was like 5. I was very, very young. So my mom submitted to the Friend, and they printed it. And my mom was like, oh my gosh, your poem is in here. They changed it. They changed it to The Red Fox. And I was mad. That was the first time I learned about like censorship or what. I was like, because in my mind, I had the picture of like this black fox with like shimmering fur. And I remember this like vividly. And I was like, it wasn't the red fox. I was so mad.
Well, of course they had to change it because.
Exactly. Anyways, that's my Friend magazine story.
Wow. That's so cool though. I remember I think I had a moment where I had something in the Friend also, and I seem to remember it was when President Kimball died. And or no, it was when President Kimball had a big birthday or something like that. And we were supposed to like write birthday cards to him.
Yeah.
So
And
we
that's
did
not
this.
salty at all, by the way.
No. And we did this during primary class. And our
Mhm.
primary teachers had a big, huge envelope that they sent in to Salt Lake. And I want to say that one of mine got into the friend or something like that, which I thought was super cool. And
Yeah.
then when I was a youth, we had a winter youth retreat, which was called Youth Conference. It was like EFY light before EFY was a thing. And we did it at this YMCA camp called Frost Valley. And I remember that the New Era came to our youth conference one year and took a bunch of pictures of everybody. And I still have it, actually.
Do you really?
I do. And I was interviewed, and I have a
Oh,
quote in there or something. So I'll go look that up later, because that's, again, kind of another youth conference is a rabbit hole for another time. We'll do a whole youth conference thing. Anyway, this is okay.
Mormon ads.
So Mormon ads. Yeah, that's where we got off the train. So yeah, we had these Mormon ad propaganda things. And I remember my seminary teacher having them hanging all over the room where she taught seminary.
Yep.
They were all over the youth room in the chapel. And Kirsten, you were extra.
I was extra. Well, my mother was. Any of them that my mom really liked, she would get printed like poster size. I'm talking like movie poster size, huge, and frame them. And we got to pick our favorite ones for our room. But then she also lined our upstairs hallway with them. So, like, instead of having family pictures, we had these Mormon ads all up and down the hallways. So I was literally bombarded with propaganda every single day.
Yeah. So now I'm going to show you, like I said, probably an hour and a half ago, I'm going to show you a picture that's going to make you really angry. It made me really angry when I saw it again, because I remembered this is literally what young women were taught, are taught, will continue to be taught. This is it right here. This is saying the quiet thing out loud.
Yep.
You have exactly one job. And it's like, some of these Mormon ads were playful and cute. We were talking about the one where there's an ice cream sundae with a cockroach in it, similar to the poop and the brownies one. This one is not cute. This one doesn't have a cutesy little saying, like some of them were like, gossip, don't pass it on. This one is so like, this is what you will do. You have one job. You have exactly one job. Like I can just see every person in the quorum of the 12 apostles saying this in a really mean way, because that's how I took it. Like, this is your only job. And if you fail at this, you're not acceptable.
You're not
It
worth
is not
anything.
yes, you're not worth anything. And it's like the image of a little girl looking in the mirror, and all she can see is older her in front of the temple getting married. That's her exactly one job.
So how does any woman feel if she doesn't get married? And they wonder why all these girls want to get married so young, because they have no other ambition or goal in life.
Right.
I when I was at BYU, I had so many friends that were saying they were either going to change their major because it was hard and they weren't going to use it anyway.
Yep.
Or they would say, I can't believe I'm spending all this time so I can be a smart mommy. I heard so many times. So many times. So their only goal is to get married and be a mother. So if you don't have that, so if you don't get married, or you don't have children, or because there are 1,000 ors, don't have value. They're not saying that, but they are very much saying that loudly.
Yeah. There is one way to be acceptable in the Mormon church. One way. That's it.
Yeah.
And if you're different than that in any way, too bad. I feel really, really sad for my oldest niece. she's the oldest of 7, and she is so smart and so funny. She served a mission. She's back from her mission now. She's at BYU, and she has said, like, even to her parents, she does not want to have children. I sent her a meme one time that says something like, "I'm not having kids" is kind of just like apologetic and weak. I don't want to have kids, apologetic and weak. So like, say it a little stronger. This shit ends with me. But I feel sad for her because she is so Mormon. Her parents are very Mormon, and I just think about what a struggle her future is going to be. She's going to have to explain herself for the rest of her life, and she also is going to have to find a way to feel valuable in a system that is set up to make you feel devalued if you don't comply.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is that quote from Brigham Young that straight up says, if you're 26 and unmarried, you are now a menace to society.
Yeah. And I think that was more for the boys, wasn't it?
It was, but every single LDS person I knew that was young and single, like, it became a joke. I remember going to single wards and people would be like, "Oh, I'm 25. You only have 6 months till you're a menace to society." And they would say that to women too. Like, it was very much, the men kind of laughed it off, but you could definitely see some hurt in some of their eyes. I've been home from my mission for 4 years and no one wants to marry me. Because I had conversations with some that were like that. And then the women, when I was younger, so, that mission age 20 years ago, I remember girls feeling like, okay, I got my degree. I still wasn't married. So I went on a mission because back then you had to be 21. I came home. I'm now 23. Still someone doesn't want to marry me. That just makes them feel worse and worse and worse and worse. I mean, by the time you're 26, 27, 28 and unmarried, you might as well have your ovaries all shriveled up and be worthless. That's how they're feeling.
Yeah. And they're looking around at all of their peers who are the same age, and most of them have 2 or 3 kids by that time.
At least. Yeah. So it all starts with the temple and baptism.
Yeah. So, wow. It only took us 40 minutes to get to the point where we're actually going to talk about the main topic today. So this is the temple, definitely, that's the pinnacle of Mormonism. And so when you turn 12, the special thing is you're allowed to go to the temple to do baptisms for the dead. Yes, that's what I said. Baptisms for the dead. Now, because Mormons believe that they are the one true religion, they believe that the priesthood authority that Jesus Christ had when he was on the earth, they believe that was taken from the earth when all the apostles died, because they believe it has to be conferred by the laying on of hands. And so they believe that Jesus, gave the priesthood to each of his apostles. And once they were all dead, there was no more priesthood. It was gone forever. And so they believe that in the course of Joseph Smith's hallucinations, he was visited by Peter, James, and John, the original dudes, right? And that
little
they
ghosties
laid their hands. Well, no, they weren't resurrected beings. Anyway, that's all. I don't want to get into all that. It's too much. Oh, anyway,
they were already deceased, and they came and gave it to them.
Yes, so they came and laid their hands on Joseph Smith's head, which, if they didn't have physical hands and they were just spirits, I don't know how they're trying to make that all work. I have so many questions that will never be answered because Joseph Smith isn't here to invent an answer. Anyway, so they believe that Joseph Smith received the priesthood from Peter, James, and John, and that's why we're the one true religion, the only ones with the real authority to baptize in Jesus's name. And so Mormons believe that you can't get into heaven unless you've been baptized with the proper authority. And so they believe that every person who has ever lived on the face of the earth who is not baptized with proper authority has to have that done for them so that they can get into heaven. So
Yep.
Mormons believe in a place called spirit prison. And when you die, you go straight to spirit prison if you haven't been baptized by Mormon authority. Now, spirit prison is not supposed to be a scary place. It's still beautiful and wonderful, but you stay there. I can't believe they actually call it prison.
I know.
Like, so you stay there and you get taught the Mormon gospel by all of the past prophets and apostles and everybody. And when you decide that you're going to accept the Mormon gospel, then someone on earth can be baptized on your behalf. And then you can choose to accept that baptism ordinance or not. And so Mormons literally believe that they can be baptized for people who have already been deceased. And that's how everybody gets into heaven. So when Mormons say stuff like busy on the other side or busy doing the work of the Lord, that's what they're talking about.
That's what they're talking about. That's what I was going to say. I was hoping you were getting there because then they're like, they have work to do and they're helping on the other side. Like my brother passed when he was 4.5. And I remember distinctly as he was getting to the age he would have been 18 or 19, my parents made it very clear he was on his mission, kind of like he's a missionary. He's teaching on the other side. Right. And they would talk about that very openly a lot because they truly believe there are missionaries teaching these individuals in spirit prison, and it is our job to go and be baptized and complete their ordinances, or all my brother's work was for naught.
Yeah. It's so heartbreaking, Kirsten. Yeah. I'm so sorry. It's a way it just seems like, when you have a child die, it's like the future and your hopes and dreams for them die also. And that belief is a way of kind of keeping them alive, as if they were able to do all the things they didn't get to do in this life. And it just breaks my heart. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's as a kid, I think I always saw it in a very optimistic way because I was like, oh, you're right. Oh, we can be with him, and help him out. And as an adult with children, I'm definitely on the other side now. I'm like,
yeah.
My mom specifically would always put a very optimistic spin on things. And when he passed, my mom was 22, 23.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, I can't. Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Don't ever apologize for having emotions.
I cannot imagine being 23 and losing a child in such a horrifically awful way. My brother had brain cancer and he passed because the tumor snapped his brain stem.
Gosh.
Not to be graphic, but I can't imagine not feeling comfort from your faith. They told her that if she had more faith, he would have been healed.
Oh,
he had gotten a blessing from Neil Maxwell.
Wow.
And was told that they should have had the faith for him to be healed because this was a prophet of God. And her family that she grew up was not LDS. My mom was a convert. And my dad is who he is. I can't imagine being that young and truly not having anyone to go to for comfort.
Yeah.
And so much of my entire life was trying to make the best of that. My mom talked about it constantly. I remember even into adulthood, I sometimes wanted to be like, let it go. It's been over 20
Yeah.
years. Now, as an adult, I just want to hug her and be like, I am so
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Nobody loved you or took care of you or held your emotions or offered group therapy or anything,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she would spin this rhetoric that he was doing these things. He was helping on the other side. He was ushering in angels. When I had a miscarriage, she was like, oh, he's taking care of your baby, and all these things. And
Wow.
yeah, anyways, I can't believe I got emotional over that.
Well, of course you get emotional over that. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible thing to have to go through as a child, as a family, as a sister, as a daughter, all of those things. And it's not something that ever goes away. That grief doesn't ever leave you. It just visits less often,
Yeah.
The other thing that like all of this brings up is the idea in Mormonism that if you die before you're 8 years old, you're automatically fast tracked to the celestial kingdom. So that would have been something that you guys probably talked about. And not only that, but
All the
you and
time.
your siblings being born under the covenant, you're
Yep.
sealed together. So there's this constant messaging and pressure of like, your brother's already in the celestial kingdom, and we can't all be there together unless you do all of the Mormon things the way that you're supposed to. And it's, gosh, it never ceases to amaze and disgust me how those threads of like spiritual abuse, the spiritual abuse of that hanging over your head for your entire life. Like if you don't do things right, you're not going to be with your family when this life is over. Like,
Yeah.
it's so harmful. It's so abusive. And it's like, that's why I grew up feeling like I never got to live my own life. I didn't get to make my own choices. They were all made for me.
Yeah.
Before I was even born.
Yep. Yeah. It was
It makes
constant.
me angry.
It was always, if you mess up, you're not going to be there because he's right there. Good luck to you. I mean, another thing was like, I don't think this was necessarily said to me that I can remember, but I always had in my head, because it was always like, your brother is around. We can feel his spirit. He's in our home. He loves us, blah, blah, blah. I always was worried. I know you had the fear Jesus would see you. I had the fear my brother would. I'm serious. And this was, to me, Jesus was a spiritual being. My brother was a tangible person that I've seen home videos of and have pictures in my house. Like, this is a real person. And he's going to know what I'm doing. And I know my mom would talk about feeling him. He had talked to her about things, things like that. So I was like, he's going to tell my mom. Like, he was truly like, it was both scary and comforting a lot of times. But
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very much Mormons believe that the spirit world is here and that, that there are spirits all around us of the people who've passed, that our ancestors are here helping us. And some of the work that they do on the other side is like magically helping you discover names to take to the temple. So that's one of the reasons why Ancestry.com, newspapers.com, those are both owned by corporations that are owned by the corporation of the LDS Church. They are that's why they're so heavily into doing your genealogy and your family history work, is because if you have anybody in your ancestry who is not Mormon, who has not been baptized with the proper authority, you enter their name into the church database. And I remember very specifically, like I had a time period where things were really, really hard for me emotionally. And I was counseled by my bishop and whatever, to throw myself into temple work. And so I hardcore did genealogy before the internet was a thing.
Yep.
And so I remember I would when my kids were at, mutual, and I think this was when my daughter she would have been too young. So maybe I can't remember. Anyway, I knew that there was one night a week where I would go to the family history library and I would sit there and look at microfilm. And specifically, I was looking for my husband's ancestors because none of them were Mormon because he's not Mormon, my former spouse. And I would go look at microfilm and I would do research. And then I would set aside several hours on Sunday to compile all the research that I had gotten and then figure out what I wanted to go look at the next time. And so the way we used to do it is that you would save these names onto a disc, and then you would take the disc to the temple, and in the temple office, they would print out these cards. I have some, I think.
You do not. Do you really?
I threw a lot of them away, but I bet I still do have some. I could not find a single card. And I'm so proud of myself because I used to save everything.
Everything?
But I did find some precious gems. Of course, I found my new era.
I love it.
Yeah, so this is the magazine that we, read as kids, young adults or whatever. And they were always full of like these cautionary tales.
Yes.
And also Mormon legends. A lot of the Mormon legends came from this magazine. They also had this section where you could like write in with your accomplishments, and they would feature people who did cool stuff. And I was always like, I do cool stuff. Here's here's a tithing shaming article.
Yep.
The 10% solution.
Yep.
Anyways, yeah, lots of stuff like that. And then I actually tore out the pages that the article from our youth conference was, but I'm actually horrified to read this quote because I don't remember what it says, but I have it highlighted in my copy of the pages that I tore out.
I'm so excited.
Here we go. Are you ready?
Oh, you don't know either because you didn't have your glasses.
Yeah, I don't know either because I couldn't see it. First of all, they got my name wrong.
Of course. Welcome to my life. I was Kristen in every article.
So I'll just read a little portion of what it says right before my quotes for context. It says, and so it is for almost every teenager here. One of the best things about this youth conference is the chance to see old friends and make new ones. Friendship is a big part of the Frost Valley tradition. Somebody else quotes that this is a place where people will just come up and introduce themselves, and you can make friends that you can talk to about the gospel, said this other person. Right. And then it says, yeah, because that's what you want to do as a teenager is talk to people about the gospel.
That's not cringy at all.
If they're already members, it's like, why waste your breath? Because they're already members.
They're like, listen, I was thinking about Jesus. And they're like, oh, me too, because I don't know anything else.
Yeah. Okay, then it says, Edie Connor. Edie, really? Edie?
That's not even close.
They didn't bother to like, can you spell that for me? Which is what most journalists do. Edie Connor, the only girl who came to Frost Valley from, says my ward.
Yeah.
At the testimony meeting, she said, I knew I could go to any one of the girls' lodges and be able to stay there. It's a comforting feeling to be around so many people who share the same values.
That sounds like something you would say.
Totally does. During my open mic testimony meeting.
That's
I think
really, I'm glad you didn't say anything like super, super awful. Like, I'm so happy to not see anyone wearing tank tops so we can all be modest or something.
Right.
Like that.
Right.
Because like you said, that is really very nice, knowing that you could go and talk to anyone. And, you know, if you were the only girl from your ward, I could see that's a sweet thing. I'm glad you felt that.
Yeah, it was about belonging and acceptance. This is a little bit of a tangent, but we'll talk
Shocker.
about, yeah, we'll talk about this at some point. But this is, so I have Pioneer Ancestry. This is a fan chart which shows, you know, like all the generations. So like you would be in the center here, and then your parents here, and then one generation, 2, 3, 4, etc. So
Yes.
when I went to visit Nauvoo on a church youth trip with my children, that was the only reason I went, is because my children were going, and I was like, they're not going without me, because I was already kind of,
Yeah.
But basically there, you can go to the family history library in Nauvoo, and they will tell you which of your ancestors lived there, and then they will tell you this is a map of Nauvoo, and it tells you the block and the lot where they lived.
Oh, that's
So
actually really
it's actually really cool. This is something that we'll dig into at some point. But it has to do with the whole family history, importance of family history thing.
I want to say something about ancestry.com, because I think this is humorous, and I don't think a lot of Never Mormons know this. So ancestry.com, we know, is owned by a branch of the church's, you know, whatever. It's Mormon owned. If you go there and put your information in or help build out the ancestry.com, those names are now available to anyone, right? We know this.
Yeah.
What you may not know is when you go and do temple baptisms or work for the dead, which is what we're talking about, they don't have to be your family. They encourage you to do your family work, but it can be anyone. So any member who is very enthusiastic about making sure everyone is baptized in the temple on behalf of the dead people and the names on there, they can take to the temple and get baptized. So what we're saying is, if you go in there and put in your family members, I'm not saying don't do this. I just think people should know and have informed consent. When you put your information in there or your family members' information and build up this website, you are now perhaps giving them the opportunity to be baptized in the Mormon church without consent. That's all I'm saying. I know it's kind of a weird way to say it. I couldn't get my words out. So
yeah,
non-consensual baptism is what I'm saying.
Right. And it's, you know, getting into the whole ethical consideration of this.
Yeah.
Mormons justify doing it because they really believe that this is for the greater good. They really believe that everybody needs this. And so the ethical considerations go completely out the window. There were people doing baptismal work for Holocaust survivors for a while, until the church had to come out and tell people not to do that. But Mormons also do believe that even Jewish people are going to accept Jesus Christ as their savior at some point. And so, it's like almost everything in Mormonism, all of the ethical considerations go out the window because they really believe that they're doing this for the greater good, which is really troubling, because it means then at some point also legal considerations can be called into question. And this is why so many Mormons kind of take a left turn ethically, is because as long as they're doing it to build up the kingdom of God, they believe that it's okay. So it's okay to, you know, do shady things, to lie to people, to whatever, if it's lying for the Lord, if it's doing, you know, if it's in the end going to benefit the church, or they believe benefit humanity.
The gospel. Exactly.
So I also found my journal that my parents gave me when I was 15. And in the front of the journal is a place for me to write my pedigree chart.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's like
I have that in my baby book too.
Important that was. And then I actually did find my research binder from the pre-internet times, where I had my husband's family's pedigree on this side, and then I had my stuff on this side. But this is basically what I would do is they'd fill out
Yeah.
these group records with everybody's names. And then I had like, here's the research that I did. And then I had like, I had a whole thing that I printed out all this stuff that I found on Ancestry, that I then, like I had all of these notes and everything. Like this is a census record. I printed out census records with, the proof of everybody's whatever. So this is what I did with my spare time when I also had 4 children. And like, what? It was definitely a trauma escape thing for me to stay that busy. So it was a big deal doing all of that. And I wish that I had found the cards, because so when you go print out those cards, they're a little rectangle. They're pink for girls and blue for boys, because gender is eternal.
Very important.
According to the church. And so you would take that card and it would have the person's name and birth date. And then there were literally 4 boxes that would get checked. 1 for baptism, 1 for confirmation, 1 for sealing, which is the marriage ceremony, and then 1 for the endowment, which is all the promise making, handshaking thing, and then 1 for sealing. So you had to have all 4 of those boxes checked for each person whose name that you took into the temple.
For them to be fully saved and have all the ordinances of salvation.
Exactly. So as a 12-year-old, we would have been taken into the bishop's office sometime prior to our 12th birthday to have an interview with the bishop to see if we were worthy to go into the temple. And then we would receive what they called a limited use recommend, which was only for the youth. And I happen to have one here, I think. So this is a limited use recommend. And it would have your bishop's signature on it and the date and everything, and a very official serial number. So this is what it looks like. And there's enough room for lots of names. So what the bishop would do, like before a temple trip, is he would interview each of the youth and he would just put all their names on the same recommend, and then the leader would take it there. Well, I was so Mormon that I had a tradition with my kids that when they turned 12, I would take them to the temple on their birthday to do baptisms for the dead.
Great.
That's why there's only one name on this.
I'm like, great.
So I want to show your picture.
I sent Megan a picture of my second temple trip ever. I went on vacation with a friend and we went and did temple baptisms, which is insane. So when I was growing up, there wasn't a temple super close to me. The closest one was like 3 or 4 hour drive. So I think I had gone once before, like with my family. And then this was the second time. So probably my birthday's in December. This was in June or something. It was during the summer. So this is 12-year-old Kirsten.
There she is.
Me.
12-year-old Kirsten in front of the St. Louis, Missouri temple. So cute. And also
so young.
So young.
So young. 12 years old. Young. So I remember that was the summer before 7th grade. So
wow.
I was a baby.
Middle schoolers.
Yeah. Thinking I was going and doing salvational work for people who had passed on before me.
Should we talk about the interview questions for 12-year-old girls?
I think so.
Yeah. So we went through the baptismal interview questions on one of our episodes. The temple interview questions are basically the same, with the added, do you keep the law of chastity, meaning no sexual contact before marriage. At all.
But not only that, that includes self-pleasure, any viewing of corn.
Right.
Anything like that.
For some reason, the church has made an obsession about that. And I say for some reason, but I guess the reason is because almost all men look at corn. You know,
women too. We don't have to
I
put
mean,
it just
women
in
do
men.
too. Well, that's so true. I mean, but they demonize it for men especially.
Yes, for
You know,
men
they
especially.
demonize it for everybody, but for men, I remember a shift at one point in the church where they said, stop asking your sons if they have seen anything
Yes, they have.
corn.
Yeah.
That now you're supposed to ask them, when was the last time you saw something that was corn?
Yeah. When I was looking up those Mormon ads too, I didn't even send them all to you, the ones I found. There were several still up on the church's website that say specifically about corn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Specifically, it says that under it, like,
Yep.
is this what you're putting in your mind? And, you know,
Mhm.
uses the word and everything. And it has pictures of the internet and people being like, you know, things like that.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
I have to say, as a 12-year-old child who is very sheltered, I was not allowed to go to the sex ed video thing. I had to go to the library with the weird kids. My parents never ever talked about sex. I did not know what self-pleasure was at the age of 12. And
I didn't either.
I don't really remember my bishop asking me specific questions about that, thank goodness, because I know for a fact there are women who have told me they didn't know what it was. And when they got asked about it and they said they didn't know what it was, the bishop would describe to them what it was, which
It's not
is
just
horrific.
It's not just women. It was literally a
Yeah.
joke in my household that my uncle was asked that, and he, as a 12-year-old, said, "What's that?" And then the bishop told him what it was, and it was literally a joke in the house. That's how he
Yeah.
learned what it was.
That's
We
how I
would
learned.
all laugh about it, and I was
Right.
like, even as a kid, when I heard this story, I had to probably have been at least a teenager because I didn't know what it was,
Yeah.
prior to that. But I remember even at that age thinking that wasn't funny, but everybody was laughing. So then I was like, oh, I guess, ha 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 ha, that the bishop had to
Right.
tell him what it was. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
It's not
keep in
funny to
mind
me.
too, no, keeping in mind too, that until what was it, 2012 or 2013, these interviews would have been conducted one-on-one with an adult, but the adult bishop and the 12-year-old child, no parents in the room. And Sam Young advocated to protect children by having them allow the parents to be in these interviews with them, and they excommunicated him. And then they changed the policy and started allowing parents to be in those interviews with them. And I was so brainwashed to believe and trust my Mormon bishops that when the policy changed, first of all, I didn't even know about it because they didn't announce it. But thank goodness the guy who was the bishop at the time was like, okay, it's time for your son's interview. And you can be in the room. And I was like, oh, I can. And he goes, yes. And you should want to be in the room. And I was like, you're right.
Okay.
I should want to be in the room. Like, why have I been doing it wrong all these years and just allowing that to happen? Well, because we just trust everybody. Like, even though I had a very close friend who was essayed by their bishop, I still just continued to trust that all bishops were good and that none of them, that would not be a problem for anybody.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this so many times, but it needs to keep being said. Having those conversations with children is grooming, is abuse, is all those things, setting them up for further horrific things, even if it isn't specifically with that individual. It's putting the idea that conversations like that with people in power is okay.
Yeah. And also it is the beginning, it's the beginning of outsourcing your self-validation, of looking for external validation, external worthiness, because you're literally going in to answer a set of questions to then be declared worthy to go into the temple.
Yep.
And that are you worthy question is pervasive in everyday
It does.
Mormonism.
Don't they ask you that? I feel like
Now they do, yeah.
I feel they ask, like, do you feel like you are worthy?
Right.
I remember being asked that.
They added that question maybe only 15 years ago, where the final question in temple recommend interview is, do you believe that you're worthy to enter the temple? But I remember that being a big change of like, yes, I can declare myself worthy. And that actually was kind of the beginning of me, starting to reframe my beliefs a little bit, because the God that I believed in knows my heart, knows my circumstances, knows how faithful I am. And does he actually, is he actually going to keep me out of the temple for this thing or that thing or whatever? I started to reframe and say, like, until I finally got to the conclusion that, like, that's none of my bishop's business. And I'm not telling him any of this stuff. Like, I'm not telling him anything, because he does not deserve to know. First of all, he's like, he's not trained. He's not like, he doesn't have any special powers of discernment. Like, I started to break away from that mind mold a lot sooner than I left the church.
But a 12-year-old doesn't. Like,
no.
I remember I hated being asked also about tithing, because there were times I didn't want to pay tithing, and sometimes I didn't, or my mom would say she had paid it and covered mine or whatever. So when they would ask that tithing question, I always was like, I don't know, did I actually pay a full 10%? And that would really bother me. But when you're a kid, like, your 10% could be $1 or whatever, but the pressure of making sure you paid it is a lot. At least it was for me. I might be the wrong audience. I'm obsessed with finance. We all know that. Even at that age, I was like, where's my money? Bitch better have my money.
Well, and I remember going into temple recommend interviews with an envelope of tithing to get caught up. To make sure. Yeah.
I did that too. You take the little gray envelopes in. And I was just always so concerned about that. So I'm going to say this here, since, we're already talking about the temple. I made a TikTok on this, and I got some flack from true believing members. So I'm going to say it loud and clear from my YouTube pulpit. I know, right? Yeah. Mormonism is the only religion that pays you for, or makes you pay for salvation. Makes you pay. I have people say, oh, it's optional. It is not fucking optional. And I'm using my full chest when I say this. Other churches, yes, they'll say sometimes if you pay more, you can, get more titles or recognition. Every single other religion, they will ask you to, but it is optional. As the plate comes around, you can put $1 in it. You can put $500 in it. You can write a check. You can skip it for a week. You can put a nickel. Whatever, every single other religion, it is optional. They do say in the Bible, supposedly 10%. I can't quote you the scripture. I haven't read that thing in over 10 years. So the Mormon religion is the only one that has a percentage with it and asks you if you are a full tithe payer with a record, that you go in and acknowledge that to the bishop. And if your answer is no, you do not get to participate in the ceremonies that are required for you to go to the celestial kingdom.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, as you can see, finances, again, they get on my nerves. I hate it. So they are literally saying, if you do not pay us this 10% of all of your earnings, you don't get to go to heaven. And I will die on that hill. I don't care if you think I didn't study. I don't care if you think I'm a lazy learner. I don't care if you think I've got a sign in front of the temple protesting the church. I don't care what you think. This is right. I am right. You are wrong. Leave whatever comment you want below. Thank you for the engagement. And they just do. If you want to go to heaven, give us your money. That's what they're saying. And if you don't, you don't get to go.
Tithing is not optional. It is one of the temple recommend questions.
So even a 12-year-old is feeling like they can't go to heaven if they don't give their money. They're $1 or 10 cents, Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I get heated.
No, I get it. And I am too. it makes me angry too, especially with the amount of, money that they already have. Which even if every single member in the church stopped paying tithing right now, they would never run out of money, not ever.
Not in
Um,
100 lifetimes.
yeah,
They would.
because that's how well invested they are, the returns on their
Yeah.
investments. Um, I have so many thoughts about all of this, but I'm trying to stay on track. But
Sorry.
yes, at 100, no, you're fine. Like these things it's so important and necessary to emphasize, how faithful you and I were in
Yeah.
checking the boxes and doing all of the things that we know what the hell we're talking about,
Yeah.
and it is 100% true. Now you can reframe it to say, like, you can gaslight yourself and you can say, no, I have a choice if I want to pay tithing or not. Okay, fine, you do have that choice, but the consequence is if you choose not to pay your tithing, or if you choose to only pay a partial tithing or whatever, you cannot go to the temple. It's a 2-step interview process. Your Mormon
Yep.
card has to be signed by your bishop and by your stake president, who is over the bishop. You go through 2
Yep.
interviews. It's the same questions at every interview. And it's, I don't know, what is that? Backup discernment, just in case,
Right.
like, and then at the end of the year, you go to tithing settlement, which is where you and your family, you sit in front of the bishop. They give you a printout of, these are the records that we have of everything that you've paid this
And you
year.
sign
Does it
it.
match? And then you have to sign it to say that you're a full tithe payer, or the bishop has to check a box that you're a partial tithe payer or whatever. So then the next time you go in for your temple recommend to be renewed every 2 years, you have to go through this 2-step interview process. He's going to
Yep.
look at that record and be like, are they a full tithe payer? Well, I see here it says you're not a full tithe payer. How much do you owe? Well, I haven't
Yep.
paid since, 2015. Okay, well, let's add up how much that is, because you're going to have to pay it if you want to go to the temple.
Yep.
So back
So
to
after all of that,
the interview questions, I did want to share something. I'm going to try to share this experience without getting too personal with it. But this is something that I've thought about a lot.
Yeah.
As part of my youth temple baptism situation. My boyfriend that I was hanging out with, that we couldn't really date because I wasn't old enough. I had confessed to him something that had happened to me. And I wanted to go to the temple so bad, and I wanted to be clean and worthy so bad that I didn't want to, I don't know. The thing is, I confessed this thing that had happened to me, and I didn't exaggerate at all when I confessed that thing, but it painted somebody close to me in an extremely negative light. And I had a lot of consternation about that, because I didn't want people to think ill of this person who was close to me.
Yeah.
And so I reframed the experience in my mind and gaslit myself to believe that it wasn't as bad as I had made it out to be. And I felt so terrible about making this person look bad that I went to my then boyfriend and told him that I had lied about what I said. And because I wanted to confess that lie so that I could be clean to go to the temple. And I think about it a lot, because I think about, that's kind of what I did with a lot of my experiences growing up. Like, I gaslit myself into believing that they were not as bad as they were, because I didn't want to believe bad things about the people that I loved.
Yeah.
Because this was my forever family, And so I wanted to reframe it and say, okay, that wasn't really abusive. It was just a little harsh,
Again, I kind of want to put in perspective right there. That experience is just something that was very personal, because it was directly connected to people that you're close to, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about it, that is the same mental logic that every single member of the church uses anytime they're taught something weird. Literally, that's the apologetics logic.
Right.
Every single one of the articles on the LDS website is doing the exact same thing. They cannot fathom that someone that they have revered so highly their entire life could have ever done something nefarious. They cannot believe that Joseph Smith would make up such a huge lie that would cause so many people to lose their lives, that would cause so many people to have hurt, that would cause so many people to live in devastation and sadness and depression and mental health issues and abuse and.
Yeah.
You literally cannot get yourself to that space that you will lie and tell yourself it's true. It has to be true, because otherwise it will send you down a nihilistic road.
Yes.
That is
100%.
so incredibly painful. You can't deal with it.
Yep.
You know,
And that's, it is the sunk cost fallacy of like, if this is not true, then I've wasted so much of my life, and I went through all of those feelings, all of those existential crises. I did get all the way down to nihilism. It was so incredibly hard, which is why we do, as members, we do gaslight ourselves, which kind of brings us full circle, because that's how we got to the point where we thought it was totally normal to get baptized for dead people.
For the dead people.
Totally normal. Like, this is normal. Where if you told any other 12-year-old kid, like, that's why I wanted to like stick a microphone in the face of my friends when I was back visiting my old high school, because I wanted to be like, okay, when I was Mormon, what did you think of?
Right?
Well,
I even want to. Do you have a picture handy of the font?
I'll pull one up.
I was gonna say, so the font, so everyone understands, the whole point of temples, and as you can see, getting baptized for the dead, is the idea of gathering the 12 tribes of Israel. So the font is built on the backs of 12 oxen that represent the tribes of Israel, and the font is right on top of it that you're getting baptized into. It is extremely culty looking. I mean, if you'd put a slab on it, it could have been an altar for a human sacrifice. That's all I'm saying. So we've got 12 tribes. You go in and you get baptized for and on behalf of. They say the name Elizabeth, who is dead, in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and then they dunk you.
And then as soon as you come back up out of the water, they start another one.
They do it again. You do about 20 in a row. So it'd be like, they say, they have you say your name, right? Or they say it. They always say,
they do say your name. Yeah.
Right. They have their arm at the square and they say, I so-and-so here with Kirsten, for and in behalf of the name of the dead person. So Sarah, who is dead, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. And they baptize you. And you do that like 20 times.
So I'll enlarge parts of this so that you can see it. But the 12 oxen at the bottom represent the 12 tribes of Israel. And so this is a literal gathering that we're talking about here. And then you can see the baptismal font. Now I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit. If I could like click on this part, does it make it bigger? Nope. So you can see there's a little desk right here. And that would be where the recorder sits. And so they would have a sheet of paper with all the names on it. And as each person got dunked, they would watch to make sure everything goes under the water. And then they check off that box that was done for that person. There are 2 chairs over here as well. And that is for the witnesses to sit in. So there's sometimes more than one witness, but one is sufficient. So you would come down these stairs into the font with a priesthood dude and just get baptized over and over for like 20 people.
Yep. But every single font looks like that. So it's not like they're nicer or prettier or different in each temple. They all look like that. They have the oxen and then they have the font on top of it.
Yeah, this one I think is the Salt Lake Temple. I can't be sure because I've never been to the baptistry in the Salt Lake Temple. But again, they've got, some handrails here, and then the chairs.
No, it is the Salt Lake Temple. I just lied to you. I apologize. I have done baptisms in the Salt Lake Temple, and I remember it because all of the rails and everything were wood. Like, it hit me, and it's very, it was very interesting. I remember thinking that the font was really amazing because a lot of the other ones are carved into like stone or something, so they'll be white oxen or like lighter colored. And these ones, when they were gold, I was very much like, talk about gold.
Golden idols. I know that's the whole thing that like Mormons don't get this. It's like, how is this not a golden idol? How is it not? Like you literally made a golden calf right there. You literally did. Like you made 12 of them. 12 of them. How is that not like, how do you not get that? This is the reason why Samuel often likes to say that this church is satanic. Because it's literally the opposite of everything else in all the other Christianity.
It's the endowment ceremonies, and we're going to show the comparison. Should I just say it so we get people excited?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it is very similar, word for word, to Wiccan ceremonies, which everyone talks about having, the stonemasons and everything, but it is actually Wiccan, but I don't want to keep you too much on the edge of your seat. We've got a few more temple ceremonies before then. So.
Right. Yeah, I just want to show this too because there's a little place in a lot of the temples where you can rent clothing, and when you go as a youth, they give you this super unattractive jumpsuit, which we've talked about in our other baptism episode. But again, I also want to talk about on the unfortunate fact that we're going to have to share with everybody, especially when I was a youth. If you were a young woman and you were having your period, you were not allowed to do baptisms in the temple.
Yes.
And so so the youth temple trip, when I was younger and I lived in Connecticut, the closest temple for us was Washington, D.C. It was a 6-hour drive away. And so a youth temple trip was a big deal. We would usually leave on a Friday night and stay with members in the area. And then Saturday we would get up early and go do a whole bunch of baptisms and then drive back.
Yep.
And so, it's everybody in the youth group is supposed to go. It's such a big deal that like you sacrifice everything. You miss football games, you miss whatever it is you have to miss because the temple is that important. So if somebody doesn't go, there's a lot of judgment. There's a lot of shame. Oh, she chose the wrong thing. And then imagine as a 13-year-old girl feeling super awkward about everything anyway, getting in a van with all of your Mormon friends, driving all the way down to Washington, D.C., getting into the temple, and then having to sit there and not get in the water because you're not allowed to get in the water. And from my understanding, it did not matter if what type of sanitary products you used. It didn't matter. They would not let you get in. Okay, so everybody is sitting there judging you, wondering why you're not getting in the water. And it's one of two reasons. Either everybody now knows what your cycle is, or everybody speculates that you were not worthy. And then they're going to speculate about why. Oh, did she make out with her boyfriend too much? Did she self-pleasure? Did she lie to her parents? Did she sneak out on Friday? Like that would be the perseveration. And I guarantee you when they get separated away from the adults, that's what they're talking about is why so-and-so didn't come on the trip. Well, he had a problem with his girlfriend or whatever. Like there was the gossip mill around worthiness and which kids were doing what and why. And that whole thing is so freaking toxic it made me so angry, so much judgment and shame unnecessarily when you're already feeling so many complicated things about who you are. And for me personally too, like feeling like I wasn't acceptable as I was because I was just a normal kid having normal thoughts and feelings, but that wasn't acceptable in Mormonism. And just, especially with my bisexuality, I was becoming aware of that at that time, but I really had to just stuff all of that down because that was gross and horrible and wrong. It just, it breaks my heart for every single youth in the MFMC because they all have to go through this. And it's why I was so adamant when I left the church. My daughter was 12-ish or so, and I was so adamant about pulling her out because she was just starting to learn some of that stuff that I did not want that messaging to be in her head, So I'm sorry. Ugh.
No, I hate all that stuff. I hate it all.
I hate it. Hate it all.
I shared that story, where the temple president or whoever was there, had said, if you're bleeding profusely, please don't participate. I honestly don't know if I ever went when I was menstruating. I can't recall having any sort of like thing like that.
Yeah.
That being said, now you'll hear my side of the story. When they said that, even as a 12-year-old, I rolled my eyes. And this is why. For one, I was a little shit. We all know that. But for two, I literally thought, who's going to come check? I literally thought that. Who's going to come check? I go, are you going to stick your... I was like, are you going to stick your nose up everybody's
skirt
and check to see if they're up? Like, literally, that was my thought. I was like, I'm going to put a tampon in and you're not going to know. So
yeah,
I know that your experience is probably the normal experience, because I do think a lot of people feel very heavy that people will know, or the spirit of discernment, or you might leak through and someone will know. There's so many layers of it.
For me, it was really more like God's going to know. And then he's going to know that I lied about it. And I'm literally in the temple. Like I can't lie to God and be in the temple. I would feel horrible if I did something that, that terrible, especially in the temple. Like I'm not going to lie in the temple. I might as well just strike me dead right now. And I did tell my daughters, you're fine. Like you don't need to tell anybody whether or not you're on your cycle. Just go do the baptisms. It's fine. But then also I do have to say, when my fourth child turned 12, I took her to the temple to do baptisms. My older daughter and she were super close besties. And so my older daughter wanted to come with, but she did not want to do baptisms. And I remember thinking, wonder what's going on with her and why doesn't she want to? We never had a conversation about it because I think I was afraid of the answer, because my older son had already stopped going to church and I did not want her to stop going to church because I was super sad about all that anyway. So I just we never had the conversation, and I'm sad that we didn't, but that was like the beginning of her sort of like drifting into a different pathway, I guess, for lack of a better term. So
it's so funny when we have these conversations. I'm like, I should have known. Everyone should have known back then that I already was like, I don't know about that.
Guys.
Because like you're saying, God would know. What I thought, it was like I already, again, I think this was just from my upbringing and knowing my family being higher in the church and knowing that sometimes they were full of shit, that I thought maybe that was just a men's thing because they didn't want blood potentially in the fountain, right? So, or the fountain, excuse me. So my thought was that can't be a thing because God has made women's bodies. That's how bodies work. So why would that prevent you from doing baptisms? That was always my logic. I was like, that's probably just some weird old guy. That was always thought. So
That was my thought later on, is that it was just a completely ignorant policy made by a completely ignorant, old-fashioned man. Because when I did talk about this later, there were a lot of men in the church who didn't know this was a thing, because apparently it is at the discretion of the temple president. And so if you have a temple president who's actually educated and knows how the female body works, then they know that it's not a problem. But I also do remember, like, when I had thoughts like you're expressing about, like, okay, I remember like reading in the Bible about men not being able to lay with their wife when she was unclean. And so I'm thinking, okay, it's a cleanly, like the temple has to be 100% perfectly, pristinely clean. So I get why they wouldn't want, it's just, the mental gymnastics are freaking exhausting. I hate it.
That's why I'm like, I don't know. I guess I was always a little shit, because I literally always like, okay.
You had your own brain. Like, that's the thing. Like, I didn't have my own brain. I shut down parts of my brain to be compliant because I desperately wanted to be loved and accepted by my parents.
But I think your experience is more the norm. That's what I guess I'm trying to say, is I felt like there was something wrong with me because I wasn't like that. And so I was constantly, I remember all of the time, literally every single day, thinking, do it anyways. You know how people will say, like, do it scared, or bear your testimony to have one. I kept thinking, eventually it's going to come. Eventually I'm going to get it. Eventually I'll get it. Okay. Eventually I'll understand why. Eventually, get married in the temple, do all the right things. Eventually the testimony will come, or you'll see the benefits of it or the fruits of it or whatever.
Right.
Which is why I tried so hard all of the time. Yeah. But after a while, I'm like, this is exhausting, and I'm not seeing any benefits. I'm not.
Yeah.
So I think I was someone that was probably envious of someone like you, that you believed and did it because you knew that's what God wanted, or whatever, however. I'm not you. But what I get from you is that you believed and did it without questioning. I questioned everything. And so that made me feel like a lesser soul because I questioned it. Like, I never had faith to just do it. Do you know what I mean?
I did question it. I think I had a lot of the same questions that you did, or the same thoughts, but it was like, I immediately dismissed them because I attributed those questions and those doubts and those thoughts to, like, this is just a thought from Satan. He's trying to get you to, make a wrong choice. He's trying to keep you from being righteous. And that was a narrative we heard all the time, was like, you guys are the chosen generation, which, by the way, every freaking generation has been the freaking chosen generation. Okay. But you are the chosen generation. And so therefore Satan is going to work so much harder on you, because he knows that if he can get one of you away from the covenant path, then others will follow. And so he's going to constantly try to make you doubt. He's going to constantly try to get you to make wrong choices. So I had this literal belief of, like, Satan is whispering in my ear, trying to tell me this stuff isn't true when I know it is.
Yeah. Which is probably why schizophrenia presents a lot of times as the Satan or the devil whispering.
It's just the devil. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to listen to the devil's voice, because, and I was always taught that when you have a choice to make, that Jesus always votes in your favor and Satan always votes against you, and you get to cast the deciding vote.
Yep.
Ugh,
so weird. It's so weird. I hate that for us.
Hate all of it
so much. But to get to the temple ceremony, baptized, you change your clothes, and then you go and get the Holy Ghost for them as well. Which I always thought was weird, because I'm like, why do they need the gift of the Holy Ghost?
Right.
But
right.
I always thought that. I'm like, you're dead. You don't need the still small voice telling you what God says
is right or wrong, right? And then the other thing is, like, there's the weird Mormon belief that, like, one of the whole reasons that we came to earth was to get a physical body so that our spirit and our body could be together. And Satan never got to get a physical body. And that's one of the reasons he's so pissed off.
Right.
And that's sort of where this idea comes from, that there are these disembodied spirits who follow Satan, who are around us all the time, trying to whisper in our ear and get us. This is all very visions of glory, you guys. That's why that book is so popular, is because it confirms weird Mormon beliefs. Yep. And so I just remember thinking, okay, so trying to keep it on track, the whole point of baptisms for the dead is like, these spirits no longer have a physical body, and you need a physical body in order to be literally baptized under the water, like as in dying and being born again as you come out of the water. Mm-hmm. And then, yes, you have to go to this to a separate room where you sit in a chair, and a couple of old dudes will put their hands on your head, or it could have been like your bishop or whoever came with the youth group. Yeah. And they will say, Kirsten, I hereby confirm you a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, for and in behalf of Stephanie, who is dead, and say unto you, receive the Holy Ghost.
Yep.
Yeah. And so that was actually one of the things that, like, if you did have your period and you couldn't participate in baptisms, you could at least participate in the laying on of hands. Yes. And so each one of those people, their little card the box would get checked for baptism, and then it would get checked for confirmation. And then some clerk in the temple office would type it into the computer so that it was registered, to try to avoid duplicating work. But
it happens.
This is why Mormons, why temple building is such a big deal to Mormons, because for a long time, the only temples were like, it was St. George. So wait, it was Nauvoo first? No, it was, what was the one that?
I was going to say that the other church owned now.
Oh yeah, Kirkland. Yeah, right? So there was the Kirkland temple, which was burned, right? Or was the Nauvoo one burned?
One of those were burned.
I'm so glad my Mormon brain cells are dying. I'm so glad, because I used to know all this cold. Anyway, the Kirkland temple, and then they were ushered out of, they had to leave Kirkland.
Right.
And so then they built the Nauvoo temple. I think they did burn down the Kirkland temple after the Mormons left. And I think they might have even partially burned or something, vandalized the Nauvoo temple. Anyways, then they started work on the Salt Lake temple, but the Salt Lake temple took 40 years to complete. So the St. George temple came first, and then I think it was Salt Lake, and then Los Angeles, Ogden, Provo. Like, if you lived in Utah, you were great, but so many people had to travel such a long ways for the temple that they started building smaller versions of the temple all over the place. And this was back in Gordon Hinckley's day, back in the 90s is when he started that. And he said, someday temples will dot the earth.
Oh my God, we sounded just like him. That was so good. Megan is a woman of many talents. She can impersonate prophets. Add that to your resume.
I am a prophet. And then Russell Nelson, not to be outdone, started announcing temples like, for some reason, like he wanted to outbuild Hinckley. I think that's what that was, because he had a personal vendetta against Gordon Hinckley.
Yeah.
And so he started announcing all these temples over and over in places like Mongolia, in places like China, where they don't even have an agreement with the government to even own land there, much less build a freaking temple there. And so finally, when Dallin Oaks came in, this is one thing that I will give him credit for, a voice of reason, where he was like, we're not going to announce any more temples. Because at every general conference, they would announce like 15 new temples. And there's no way that they can keep pace with the building of all of these temples. So,
well, they're getting a lot of pushback too. I know nearby where I am, they are wanting to build another temple, and they have gotten so much pushback. There's been many meetings and town halls and stuff where people are showing up saying, no, we bought this for the view and be able to be close to Mount, all these things. And they keep pushing back. And as of right now, it still hasn't been started. But like, I've heard that not just where I am, but there are other temples that are getting a ton of pushback from locals being like, no, we don't want this here.
Right. Well, right here in Texas, Fairview, Texas was a big deal because Fairview's a small town and they have zoning regulations, and the church wanted to put this giant 140-foot spire at the top of the temple, and the city council said no. And what ended up happening was basically a bullying campaign where the church attorneys came in and said, like, you can't prevent us from doing this. And the town was super against it. And it was like this huge back and forth battle that was a huge PR nightmare for the church because it makes them look like a bully. And that's what the mayor ended up saying, is that we will remember you as bullies who forced your way in here instead of trying to be neighborly and compromising and all of that stuff. It was that whole thing was a huge mess, but they're facing now similar pushback from lots of places. And I'm actually glad that they're standing up to the MFMC. It was costly for the church to do all of that legal maneuvering and everything. And so maybe they're going to be sometimes when they're going to say it's not worth it. So here's what I'm going to say. If the MFMC wants to build a church in your town, go protest it. They don't need to have all these temples. And not only that, they only have about 4 million active members in the church worldwide. So they don't even have enough members to staff these temples. A lot of these temples, they're supposed to be open from Monday through Saturday. A lot of them now are only open on Tuesdays and Thursdays, or only open on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because they don't have enough staff, which means they don't need it. If you don't have, it used to be the standard that if the temple was too busy, it was too full, if there were so many members going to the temple, filling it up all the time, they would say, okay, now we need to build another one. And that's kind of what happened in San Antonio, is that the Houston temple was busy, the Dallas temple was busy. They're so spread apart. They're like, let's build one in San Antonio. So they don't need any more temples because the church membership is shrinking, not growing. They want you to think it's growing, but it's not. They don't need any more temples. But what else are they going to do with their billions of dollars, and where are they going to shelter those tax dollars? So what are they going to do? They're going to buy up a bunch of land, and they're going to build a bunch of $50 million buildings that they don't need to build, when they could build a homeless shelter. They could build a children's shelter. They could do so many other good things with their money for their own people, but they won't do it. So they don't need any temples. So if they're going to build a temple near you, go protest. Get in front of your city council. Tell them no. Make them prove to you that they have the numbers, that they need it, because they don't. They 100% don't. Don't let the MFMC get away with this bullshit.
Yes. Preach. Preach.
The end.
Preach. Preach. Preach, Bishop Megan.
Thank you, President Kirsten. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share my testimony about how much I hate temples.
We get so passionate about this because this was something that we spent so many years of our life feeding into. I mean, I'm 40 years old. I was in the church for 30 of those years. So 3/4 of my life I dedicated to this organization that took advantage of me and so many others, that now, I'm going to stand up and be like, hey, guess what? You're full of shit. And I want everyone to know you're full of shit. Yeah. And I don't want people to think it's like, if you're in the church and you're happy, fine. Like, if my 5-year-old believes in Santa Claus, fine. I'm just saying, if someone wants to believe the church is true and you're happy in it, good. I'm glad it makes you happy. I hope you don't have traumatic instances. But I also want you to know that you're probably not going to realize how hurtful it is until you step away from it. Yeah. And that's what's happened to all of us. I feel like once you leave the church, you realize things that you never realized were harmful and awful and traumatizing and messing up your brain. You don't realize it until you step away, and then you're like, oh my God, God, what just happened? Yeah. So I think that's part of it. It is a huge part of it. And I didn't really start to realize how harmful it all was until I went to therapy and I started learning about abuse and manipulation and coercive control. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're doing it in the church, And so I also just want to
put in a quick plug. Kirsten and I are in the development phase of doing a How to Leave High Demand Religion course for people,
Yes.
as well as I do coach people coming out of high demand religion. It is a specific experience that people really only understand if they've been through it. And I can help you through some of the pitfalls that a lot of people go through when they're leaving a high control group or a high control relationship. So I'm just going to put that out there. My website is third-verse.com. I always do a free consultation before charging you any money because I want to make sure that I can help you. And yeah, it's one of the things I love is connecting with people one-on-one and hearing your stories and hearing how what I've been through can help you to avoid some of the same pain that I went through.
Yes. And Megan's awesome at that. We are not always so crazy when talking to other people. We are, let's be honest. But
we are who we are.
We are who we are. And, you know, I have mine as well. Casual advice. I do financial coaching, working through some of that stuff. But also, I have learned that a lot of people who have left high demand religion have missed parts of that education as well.
Yes. They also live with the scarcity mentality and also struggle with spending money on themselves because it feels wrong to do that. So a lot of people coming out of high demand religion have money shame issues. And Kirsten is so good at just removing the shame from it, making it matter of fact, making it manageable, something that you can actually face. And, you know, if you just need somebody to sit beside you and hold your hand while you do your budget because it feels scary, like she's great. Hire her.
Thank you. I want everyone to know, and this is going exactly why me and Megan are here. I want everyone to know that you have the opportunity to live your best life, however that looks for you.
Yeah.
We don't need to tell you what to do. If you want to be in religion, fine. I hope that makes you happy because I know it does make people happy.
Yeah.
If you want to build generational wealth and hoard gold like you're a dragon in Mountain, fine. I'll tell you how to do that. It is possible. If you want to run away from everything religious and be atheist and nihilistic, but you want to be able to buy a coffee once in a while, great. We'll help you with that too. The point is, both me and Megan want you to live your best life, and you get to decide how it is, because you don't have to go to a worthiness interview. We don't care.
Amen.
We just want you to be happy. The end. So,
I love it.
I guess
thanks
that's
for being awesome. I love you, Kirsten. Thank you.
I love you. I'm so glad we're here in this weird little corner of the universe. And we get to be here together.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's so much easier to not have to do it alone. And I could even feel like leading up to this episode, I could feel the heaviness and the trauma of unpacking my temple experiences. And it's why I've never done it on my own channel, because it felt so big. And I'm so glad that we decided to kind of break it up into bite-sized pieces. So this feels
me too,
a little bit less traumatic for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for listening. We love you. If you have any questions, please drop them below, because we do want to answer any questions that you have, on future episodes, or if we can in the comments. So please feel free to ask whatever questions you have, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Yeah, thanks for being here, everybody. Go live your best life.